First thing that happens is we get 5 cards for the Union command. I'm going to play these face up so you can see what they have. They drew no leader cards in this, so these are the actions that they have available. I'll put those in simple order so you can see them, and the way you would typically play your hand is you would stack these vertically so you could see each one. I'll just leave them laying on the board here so we can use them for reference, but this will be the Union hand. Confederates have 6 cards. We'll do the same for them. They have a leader card. I'm going to go ahead and pull that out. And they have a second leader card. I'd like to take a moment and show you the particular deployment. Now in this case, both of the attackers have artillery deployed to the rear to stop any breakthrough that may occur. Basically, troops breaking through would end up in front of the guns either here or the Union guns here in short shot range or within canister range. Next, I'd like to talk about the terrain. You see the double brown lines that are all the way up this waterway and then going up the face of Culp's Hill. Basically, every single move through this area is going to be done with the back end of the arrow because all of it is going to cross difficult ground. Confederates have the first action, so they're going to choose to see if they can soften up and close up the distance. They're going to actually use this Fire and Tactics 2. It means 2 regiments will get to use a tactical move if they pass their troop quality check, and 2 regiments will get to fire during this turn. All right. So the distance for fire is, of course, canister, which you see right here. And over on this side, we're going against a 4 with a 7. So these are 11s here, and this is a 6 firing. So that one is, in fact, a 10. So we've got a 10 and 11 here, and 2 tactical moves to go with it. So the 2 tactical moves in this case are going to be to close and begin the combat on this side, and will include this tactical move here. We need to roll a 10 or less. So the troop quality for these 2 units are both 10s. They are outside of command range, so they're not going to get a benefit of the general. So we need 10 or less on 2 6-sided dice. First one we get a 6 right there, and then the second one we've got a 6, so both those pass. So we get 2 of the regiments that cross and move up here to engage the 123rd New York, see if they can dislodge it. This works just like normal close actions. We'll get to that in a second, but the 2 shots, we'll go ahead and get those out of the way. Both shots here, we need an 11, and then we need a 10 to get a hit on this leading regiment that's on the front edge of the slope. So first shot is an 11 or greater. We missed that. And then a 10 or greater. And we missed that. They both would get +1 in this case, so I actually get the +1 for the general because I'm within support range of the general. Alright, so we're down to the actual close action. So we'll go ahead and reveal both cards that were played. In this case, the Confederates are attacking. They've got a +2 to their attack, but they also get to draw 3 cards because it's a legal condition in the combat. So they're going to draw 3 cards into their hand, which they can get 2, which would take them to their maximum hand capacity of 6. That brought their cards back up as part of that play. The Union side is getting a reroll 1. Usually you just mark that with a die that shows the rerolls available. And this is where we're at. Now it's the chance for the Confederates to play a card or to pass. They drew a decent card. They want to raise that number they're working with. So they're doing it again, and that gives them another card that they can draw. because of that draw. And now it's the Union side to play or pass. In this case, they're going to choose to pass. So before we find out if this action goes in, we need to get the defensive fire from the 123rd New York. Now its firing number is a 4. They're very disciplined troops, fairly large number of them. And they need a 4. The target is a 2. So that's a total of 6. They're in cover, so that's a 7. And they get to count their general's leadership, which is just off screen there, which is a +2. So they need a 5 or better to get a hit. The roll is in fact a 10, so that causes 1 loss, which we mark directly on the stand. It's right behind one of the troops there. And we take a troop quality check minus the 5 for the attack there. So they need a 5 or less to pass troop quality. 5, not going to make that. Nope, they failed. So this unit fails to go in after it takes its fire and routes back. And this is a crack unit, which means they run quite well. They'll end up clear back over here off camera. You zoom out a bit to show you where that's at. So they route back about that far, right there. Okay. But that does leave this other unit possibly going in. Now they've got to pass their troop quality check, again, which is a 10 to continue into combat. And they rolled an 11, so they balk and fill the line right there. And the only thing we did with that charge was burn up some cards and retire out of play. Alright, well that's what happens when you play that card. This is the end of the Confederate part of turn 1, and we'll get ready to run the Union side. So because of that result, we discard all these cards back into our discard pile, and it's the end of that action. So the Union side has a choice of which of the 3 generals they want to activate. Their hand capacity is still limited to 5. They're currently holding 4 cards, so they'll only draw 1, no matter which general they activate. If they activate 1st Division, they can only play actions within 1st Division. If they activate 2nd Division, they can only play actions within 2nd Division. If they activate the Corps, they can play the action with everybody. Typically you'd activate the Corps, but that makes him the active general, and his modifier is the one you would use in those actions offensively, so he would not be able to add his +1 unless he moves forward into combat. So the Unions decided to activate 1st Division on this side so they can get the modifiers, and they're going to play a Rally 1, Fire 2 card. Alright, so currently there's no routes in process. They're going to go ahead and play the Fire 2, and they'll start by firing the 107th New York right here at Stuart's 3rd North Carolina, right in front of it. And that shot is a 6, plus 5 is 11, plus you get a -1 die roll modifier to the roll. We rolled a 5, we would have needed to roll a 10 to get a hit, so that didn't happen. And then the second one we're going to take is down here with the 2nd Mass. Very good unit, gets a 3 firing number, firing over here against the, they have to fire closest in this case, so they'd have to fire here again at the Stuart's 3rd North Carolina. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They need an 8 or better to get a hit, +1 to the die roll. Well, if I can roll them in there. They ended up with a 10 on their die roll. So that's sufficient to get a hit against this unit. Again, you just mark it directly with a dry erase right on it. That unit now counts as 4, not 5. And must test for military discipline. So just picking any part of the board that you want to use to keep up with the turns, you mark the first turn as complete. So beginning of turn 2, we're going to go ahead and play, in this case, Tactics 3, so we can close the distance. Discard that card. and all three of these brigades of Stuarts are going to go ahead and move forward to cross the front. Now tactic, as you can see right here, let me zoom, change my position a bit, and watch all this happen. You can see here using the back of the arrow that all of these regiments can move forward without a problem directly. So this one here is going to cross and capture the edge of this. And so this attack goes in. Now defensive fire in this case will come from this unit and this unit. This one here, because it's behind the flank, will not be available for fire and will go in no matter what. So there's no way to stop this attack from rolling in. So we've got defensive fire here from the 2nd Brigade of the 1st Maryland Eastern Shore, firing into the 37th, I believe it's Alabama there. This is a fire of 6, 7, 8, 9. They missed. The fire here, again by 2nd Mass, a very disciplined veteran unit, has a firing number of 3. The target in this case is a 2, so that's a total of 5. In cover gives them a 6. Plus 1 cancels that, so that basically leaves them at a 5 or better to get a hit. They rolled 2, and they have no rerolls. Alright, so all of these units have made it in. The defender, because they're standing, does not have to roll passing of line for the 2nd unit in support here. That reserve is considered automatic and automatically counts against the combat, just like they would in the brigade game. So what I want to point out to you is this actually turns into 2 attacks. We've got a 2 against a 6, which is a really lousy holding attack on this flank. However, on this side here, the attacker has the ability to split this behind the flank attack and this unit together as the extended line. So the entire attack here is 6 to 1 because that's a flank attack. Over here, this attack is 2 to 6. This is going to be a very bad action, but we're going to find out for both sides which way this goes. Okay, so before the attack rolls in, the Confederates are going to play this card, which gives them 3 rerolls. It's an officer's card, so it can be played right out of their hand at any point during combat. And they're taking their 3 rerolls and putting them as available for their side for the remainder of this combat action. So the Confederates are attacking. They're going to go ahead and do the worst of it first and find out what happens there. They've got a grand total of 2, 3 on the attack, going against a 6, 7, 8 defense. So Union defense is an 8, and their attack is a 2 plus 2 dice. So we'll go ahead and roll that out first. So we've got a 7 and 2 is 9 to 8. They beat, but they didn't double. Not likely they would be able to double here. So they glom on and stick there, and there'll be a counterattack coming the other way. We go ahead and resolve that since that's the one we picked to go first. In this case, it's a 3. We have to check passage for this guy in the counterattack, so the 9 has to pass for military discipline. He did not, so it's just 3 to 2 plus 2 dice. 3 and 7 is 10 to 2 is 5 to 1. We will go ahead and use 1 reroll and force him to reroll that. That's a little too hot for us. We need to roll a little worse. We can keep him in the cup here. 3, we'll take that one. So we've got 3, 6 to 2. So that's 3 times. Automatic rout. This unit routes out. And as part of that rout, because they were in melee, they take 1 loss. Over here we have 6 to 1. So, and the card is 2-3. So the defense on the second combat is a defense of 3 for the 2nd Brigade of the 1st Maryland Eastern Shore. And the attack has a total of 6, plus 1 is 7. So it's 7 to 3 plus a die roll with 2 additional re-rolls. 5, we'll definitely use a re-roll for that. We're down to 1. We're at a 4. That got worse, so we'll use the last re-roll. And there's an 11. So 11 and 7 is 18. 18 to 3 is a destroyed regiment. So this unit here routed and was destroyed, out of play, because we got more than 4 times the number that we needed to do it. We just needed to reach 12. So they end up destroying that unit and breaking the line open here, going around this side. Now both sides had routes in the process. In this case, we continue play, and the routes have to affect the units that they pass through before we finish the turn. So the Union is currently down to 3 cards, and they're going to go ahead and activate the Corps Commander. So they need to do some broad action here. So that's 2 that they add in, bringing their hand up to their 5. 2 more combat battle cards. Haven't seen any leaders yet. And so they're going to go ahead and play Move and Tactics 2. And the reason they're doing this one is because at the moment they're on the flank here, but they're facing the wrong way. So they would either have to charge, which would take a roll, or they need to do a tactics, which puts them in a firing position on the flank or rear. They're going to choose to move and do the flanking position on the flank and rear. So 2 units are going to get to do move and tactics. So the 2 doing the tactics in this case are going to be these 2 regiments right here that are behind the breakthrough that just happened. Now in order to turn and face, they need to roll a 6 or less on 2 6-sided dice. These aren't great troops. Ooh, but they succeed. All right, that's very good. This is actually one very large unit, which is the 150th New York. And so they pivot like this and expand to get into a firing position behind the enemy here. Okay, so that's one of them with tactics. The second one here would be this one here with tactics, which could come up and reinforce, which they're going to do, and try to block and stem that front. So that's both moves, and that's the end of that card. It gets discarded out of play, and we are back to card play for the Confederates at the end of turn 2 here. Activating Johnson, we draw 2 cards. Brings us back up to our 6. And we have fire cards and rally cards mixed in here. We're going to go ahead and take this Tactics 4 though, because we're very close to the enemy and we're about to get flanked. And we need to carry this action forward and win it before things go bad. As you can see here, we've got enemy to our rear, we've got enemy to our front, we've got enemy to our flank, and we need support coming up. So we're going to use a tactic here and maneuver this unit forward here to support the flank of that. That's one tactic. We need to roll an 8 or less to make that move, so let me do that so we're not cheating. Even the game designer doesn't get to cheat. So we got a 4, that succeeded. Okay, and we have a tactics action here, that takes a 9. We succeeded with that one, so we'll actually close in on the flank here. And the last one here, nothing like going forward, so we'll close directly into the unit that advanced here, and that cuts off any possibility of shots. So we attack this way, and that way. That's 3 of them. We have 1 more. We need a 7 or less to bring this other brigade forward, or other regiment forward. We in fact got a 4, and they succeed in stepping forward and engaging right here. So we've got a combat here, a combat here to the front. This peels off the one to the back. This is 3-1. This one here is 4 to 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 to 3 here, and we have even here 3 to 3. So we've got 4 combats that we're about to fight, and that's going to suck through 4 cards, and you're going to see why the hands deplete so quickly. Now, in order to get away with this, because we're going to deplete the entire hand, it's going to be very important that we play that other officer card and build the hand back up to 3 at the end of the action. So we'll play this to draw the cards for the end after we've done all of our combat. For now, though, I'm going to go ahead and play him face up because I'm going to burn through the cards, and the goal here is to strip the Union player of any cards in their hand. This attack is just simply a 1 attack and 1 defense. The center has no special capability because you can't rally or fire during a melee. And so they are going to play 1 to start with. Now we've got to declare where this combat is. So we're going to take this one right here at the corner and see if we can force a route back through this area at the very edge. Let me go ahead and move the camera up so you can see that. We're fighting this action here specifically so we can try to route this unit and force it back, potentially routing this unit as it passes through. So because that's a critical area, the Union player is going to play the one with the reroll, keep the reroll option to them, and we basically are adding 1 attack, 1 defense, 1 attack, 1 defense in this case. So the first thing we do is firing. The firing number for the Union 107th New York is a 6. The target, because it's lost 1 step, instead of adding 5, only adds 4, so we're at a 10. And we roll that roll, and it's an 8, so that's a miss. The unit comes in and we go to full combat. The defender in this particular case is 3, 4, and they have the option of 1 reroll. So we have a D of 4. It's a beautiful thing about these boards. You can just mark on them and erase them at any point. As long as you're using dry erase marker. Don't use a Sharpie. That's rather permanent. So the attacker in this case is a 4, and 1 is 5. So the attacker has a 5 and 2 dice. 5 and 8 would be 13. 13 to 4 would be triple. That would be the route. So they're going to have to use the reroll in this case to try to stop that. Got the 8 again. 5 and 8 is 13. That's sufficient to get the 12 we needed to get the route. So this unit loses 100 men and they route straight back. In this case, you go ahead and just slide the division commander away. And this unit here will have to check a troop quality check for that route, minus or +1 to the die roll because of the router. So we needed a 9. We rolled a 5 + 1 is 6. So they succeeded in standing even in the face of the route. So we're over to the next combat at this point. We'll play the next set of cards. So the next one we're doing is the frontal charge right over here. We've got 4 attackers against 3 defenders. This happens to be second mass, so they have great firing number of 3. Very disciplined unit. So 3 and 4 is a 7. They need a 7 and better to get a hit. And they've got a 6. They missed. The card they played is a charge or draw 3. They did that so they could get the draw 3 in this case. So they're adding 3 cards back into their hand, which they need. Brings them up to their total of 5. And they managed to get an officer card. Gives them more choices during the combat. So the Confederate chance to try to run their cards down doesn't necessarily work out for them. The defender in this case gets no modifier because that's a 0. So the total defense is a defense of 3. And the attacker has 4, 5, plus a die roll. So pretty easy to get a test or a break on them at this point. We might even be able to destroy them. We rolled 9 plus 5, 14. 14 to 3 is 4 times. That is a destroyed outright condition. So second mass went down in the front of that attack, and the entire regiment is destroyed. No rerolls to help out, so they're stuck with that. From their hand, they would have the option to play a brigade card, which would give them rerolls, but the division card does not. It just gives them card draws. So there's nothing they could really do in this case. And the only time that these rerolls would count is if they're played as part of the battle. You can't play those out of the hand, only the officer card. So they're pretty much stuck with the result of that. And a very good regiment was destroyed in that attack. The next one along we'll set up for. So the next one we're going to do here is, let me see who that is. Stewart's, one of Stewart's regiments here, going against the 3rd Wisconsin. This is a flank attack, so the defense in this case is 1, and there's no shot on the way in. Now, the Union happened to draw a lot of great attacking cards, but no defensive help on any of these, so they're getting no defensive modifiers. With a defense modifier of 1, this is pretty much a destroyed regiment. There's nearly nothing you can do to stop it. Flank attack in this case. So the defense is 1. Even with rerolls, you're not going to get much help on it. The attack in this case is 4. So 4 plus 2 dice. Yep, that looks like, quite suitingly, that's pretty much another destroyed regiment. So just like the actual attack that went up the hill, you're seeing that the Union are losing a lot of forces here. They've got 3 routes so far that will count back to the battle board when we apply and test those units to see whether or not they're going to flee. Every destroyed unit or routed unit during a tactical combat like this goes back to the higher level board with a die roll modifier against the military discipline to see if the brigade stays in there. And if the brigade is destroyed, it's removed from play at the higher level, or the division in this case if the entire division is destroyed. So this last one's not quite as certain. You're going to get defensive fire from the 27th Indiana against one of Stewart's brigade's regiments. I think it's the 37th. Probably Alabama, but I'll check on that. The attack here will be resolved like a normal attack, except we'll get defensive fire first, so we'll do that. So 6 plus 3 is a 9, plus 1 on the firing, so they need a 9 with a plus 1 to the die. Rolled a 9 plus 1 is a hit. So now they're going to test military discipline, having lost a guy and a -1 modifier. So they need an 8 to pass the military discipline check. They rolled a 7, they succeeded, so that attack went in. We'll go ahead and resolve it. So again, no defensive modifiers for the defender. So the D is 3. And the attacker is 1, 2, 3 for the 2 guys that are left. So the attacker is 3. And there are 3 rerolls available to the defender. So it's not going to go good for the attacker in this case. So first attacker's roll would be 11, and 3 would be 14. Obviously he's going to force a reroll in that case. We're down 5. 5 and 3, or yeah, 5 and 3 is 8. 8 to 3 forces a test. The test is a 9 in this case, so we're going to go ahead and stop and take a 9 military discipline check or less to see if we can hold this line and begin to reverse it. So again, it's a 9 for the unit, and that's what we need to roll, that or less. We rolled a 2, obviously they held, so they win the action, or they've managed to hold the line against the attack. Now comes the counterattack. So we'll set that out. Now there's no firing in the counterattack, there's just simply the charge. These 2 regiments are standing alone out in the line. So the attacker has 3 plus the 2 for a total of 5. And the defender has 1, 2, 3 because they've taken 1 loss. So they've still got 2 rerolls. available, and they're going with a 5 plus 2 dice against a 3. Doesn't sound good for the attacking regiment. Well, they'll definitely re-roll the 3 in this case, so now they're down to 1. The 10 they'll keep. So that's 15 to 3, 5 times. That's an automatic destruction. And now the Confederates have lost a regiment in combat.